Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Mindset Monday. My name's Denise Zack, and I'm your host. This is part of the Game Plan U Today series. If you don't know what Game Plan U is, it is a network, a community of founders, investors, and career seekers all coming together to really solve problems for people, to help our founders who are part of our community validate their concepts. Again, and these are in a kind of sports innovation realm. We also are helping our career seekers connect with and build their portfolio, whether you're just out of college or pivoting midway or looking for something new to do. And we have a wonderful, amazing, and deep crew, global crew of executives and residents and investors who are supporting, mentoring our founders and our career seekers. It is an amazing opportunity. If you want to learn more, it is GamePlanU, the letter U.org, and we welcome you to contact us and visit us. This podcast is part of the Game Plan U community. As a 20-year therapist, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of people over the years, pivoted just a few years ago into wellness life coaching and really helping people learn about mindset, mindfulness, taking a step back and understanding what's going on in those 6 inches in between the ears that very often holds us back and keeps us in these places that might not always be the best for us. I have an opportunity to work with our founders, with our career seekers and our investors, and sometimes people outside of those realms as well, to help them understand themselves a little bit better, to kind of look inward, take a step back from their present moment and evaluate situations that are difficult and challenging. This is an opportunity for me to dive in with them, to hear them explain that, to give other people hope, and really talk about their story. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got stuff that they deal with, and everyone needs support now and again. And so today I am super excited to have one of our very, very first founders on. He's been with us from the beginning. Michael Katos. He is CEO and founder of Playing the Field, which is a platform that brings together sports fans. He is a father, he's a husband, he's an entrepreneur, he is a lover of sports, and he also pivoted midway through COVID, which we'll talk a little bit about, and is also now host of the Fan Experience podcast, which has been hugely successful. So please welcome me in joining Michael Katos to the program. Hey, Michael.
Hello, Denise. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
I'm so glad you're here. You're very welcome, and I've just been looking forward to having you and really just kind of diving in with you. You've been with us from the beginning, right? From way
Correct.
back last January, before all hell broke loose, right?
hmm
uh, and and you've been with us. You were down in Orlando with us talking about your business, and at the time you didn't have the podcast. It was just Playing the Field, and in addition to the full-time job that you had and life and family. Um, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you started the platform and what you were looking to do and are still looking to do in that realm?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, the brainchild occurred, I was using online dating apps as many do in my generation, that's just it's just the new normal, so to speak. So, I used a couple of them. And I found myself scrolling through multiple profiles just to find somebody that was possibly wearing a jersey, possibly a picture at a game, possibly something with a bio that mentioned a favorite team or a favorite sport. Because sports are I'm very passionate about sports. And I believe that, having a partner that knows about sports, at least somewhat, and understands the lifestyle. I never really considered it an interest. I know there was some apps that you could put in interest and you could just put sports down. But to me, sports is more of a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle choice. You either live and breathe sports or you don't. It's plain and simple. It's not like liking how to cook or liking R&B music. It's those are two separate things altogether. So, I came up with a concept in my head, thought of the name in about 15 seconds. And then I was dabbling and learning how to do, computer development. So I was like, all right, let me just try and make something myself. And then, as luck would have it, I met my wife about a month later on another dating app, and tabled the whole thing for a couple of years. And then I went out, a few years later, I went out, trademarked the name, and got to work on it. And through the pandemic, got a little extra time, being, laid off, furloughed from my day job, so to speak, with everything else that was going on with the pandemic. And I bought myself 10 to 12 hours a day that I didn't have before. And I just went to work and, just tried to build the app as best as I could with the limited knowledge that I had, that I just, self-taught myself, and, got a beta out there. It is on the web now, and currently working on mobile versions to be released in the next few months, hopefully. And we have pivoted more of than just the dating app aspect of things, but making it more of a sports fan community, because there's a lot of people that want to find people to go to games with, because as an adult, everyone has busy schedules. They got kids, they got jobs, they can't just, go to opening day. They can't go to a weekday game or even a weekend game with kids and whatnot. So you want to just find those people that can go and, build relationships over that common love of sports, which is one of the easiest and most natural unifiers in the world today. If you see somebody wearing a jersey, you could immediately strike up a conversation with that person. And, it's just, it's something that requires little to no effort. And if we can build a platform that makes it even easier, everyone's better off in the process.
Awesome. I love it. I love the idea of building that community and finding something to connect with, right? And you mentioned COVID, which disconnected the entire world on a social level, pretty much within a couple of months. And can you talk a little bit about what challenges you faced in just your startup, the business itself? I know you said you had more time, but I know that there's also, there were no more sports games. There were no more reasons for people to get together because everyone was stuck home. So what challenges did you face in that part of the application of your app? And then how did you manage that? Because you obviously didn't give up, you didn't fold, you're still here, and you're doing more. So can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I think that's so important in terms of mindset.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. So yeah, when COVID hit, so I mentioned I went out, I trademarked the name, and that was not an easy process, and it was a lot of back and forth, but I got the trademark process by January of 2020. So that's when really I hit the ground running. I'm like, okay, all the momentum is on my side, because I wanted that play in the field trademark. And then a couple weeks, I scheduled meetings, networking meetings, investor meetings, going to pitch events. I had a couple of months worth of meetings just lined up, to go and meet with some investors to try to fundraise. Because, me as being a one-man show, I didn't know if I can build this app by myself. I had limited knowledge, and I didn't know, if I could do it all. And COVID hit, and all those investor meetings, they got canceled. All these networking meetings got canceled. Everything that I was trying to do on the path to try to raise some funds for, scaling up this, app and whatnot, everything got canceled. And there was no time in sight where things were going to come back on the board. So I could either twiddle my thumbs and watch Netflix all day, or I could put everything into my own hands. And, I was introduced to this, this service where it was kind of like a no code, low code platform. And I learned it and built the app in about, I would say about, 6 weeks of just nonstop, just development. And I pushed it out there. And you said I joined in January, but I actually joined in April. And that was 3 days after I launched the app that Mike came calling. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I want to join. And it's been a pleasure to be part of the Game Plan U community. But yeah, I had to take matters into my own hands because nobody was going to do it other than myself.
Yeah, and that's the thing that amazes me is that you lacked knowledge and you didn't just throw your hands up in the air and you didn't give up. You actually said, uh, you know what? I need to learn this. I can, and who teaches themselves computer technology? That to me is amazing in and of itself because it's not like you're following a specific recipe. You're not
Mm-hmm.
looking at, oh, here's a book and it's telling me do A, B, and C. It is trial and error day in and day out. And it is an hours and hours and hours of dedication and half do's and oh, that didn't work. Let me try something else. What kept you from there's got to be something in your DNA that makes you a resourceful person. So, thinking back before this, what other kinds of things do you think that you have come up against or challenges that you've had where you've learned this grit or this resilience to kind of just look for more information, pivot when you need to, gather resources, ask for help? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes from me being, back when I was a baby, really. I would always be drawn to things like jigsaw puzzles. I learned how to read by, early 4 years old. Just watching Sesame Street, I taught myself how to read. Like I didn't want somebody else teaching me because, I didn't really go to daycare, like most kids do nowadays. But I was home and it was Sesame Street and it was other and I learned how to read because I wanted to find out back when they had TV guides that we had on the coffee table. So I read through the TV guide to see when my shows would be on, but I had to learn what I was reading. So
Right.
really it was between Sesame Street and the TV guide. But and I just even when it was like tying my shoes, like somebody would teach me, I'm like, no, I want to figure it out myself. And it was just a matter of me wanting to solve problems on my own and reverse engineering things and trying to figure out how things work. So I wouldn't say I had no computer knowledge because I did grow up in an age where computer games were something that
Sure.
were coming up at that point. And with dial-up internet and trying to figure out, like, I had to figure that out. And, I was big into video games as a kid. And, obviously my parents didn't know a thing about video games. And, I truly feel that the right type of video games, and that problem solving and that strategy that is baked into some of these video games, it gets you thinking in a different mode.
Mm.
And video games aren't all bad. As some people might think, like, oh, you're rotting away your brain or whatever, but it gets you to think, and it gets you to think in different ways, and it gets you to think fast and react fast with some video games. Like you either have to turn left really quick, or else the main boss is gonna eat you or whatever the case is.
Right.
So it's just a matter of those, little micro moments of just strategy and trying to figure things out as you go, and, rinse and repeat and just, reverse engineering, whatever. That's what I did when I was growing up, and it's paid off in the long run.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you even realized that was something that you did from a really, really early age, because that, there was a necessity there, right? You needed to know when the show was on, but you could have just asked someone else to do it, but you wanted to teach yourself. So there was something just innate in you. The second thing is just your curiosity too, around like, what is this? How do I do this? If I want to get something done, how do I get it done? What's going to be the best way to do it? So I love the fact that you kind of pull those two things together and you kind of bring that along with you. And so for you, it seems like it was a pretty innate thing, right? Um, what do you think about people developing that over time? I'm a proponent of it. I think that it's certainly something that people can be taught, but what are your thoughts on it? I imagine you might not think it's too easy to do.
Well, I'm a firm believer that obviously the younger you do it, the better. But it's never too late to sit there and pivot and try to learn something. It is harder to learn when you're older because you have those things baked into everything that you've done. And I try to instill that into my children now because, 10 years from now, it's going to be a lot harder for them to get on that right path, but, so are the struggles of being a father on that aspect. But, it's just, you just have to do it. And, they say curiosity killed the cat, but it built the entrepreneur. So, it's just a matter of, you have to just go out there and do it. If you have a passion for wanting to learn something, just go out there and learn something. There's millions of resources, whether it be Udemy, a master class. I'm not 100% for college because I think it teaches you things that you don't really have an interest in. But that's just me. I felt like I did go to college and I got a degree, but it didn't bring me to where I wanted to be. And everything that I did on my own got me farther along than any college coursework. But I don't want to bring that whole debate here. But it's just a matter of but that is an avenue you can go as well. So there's limited resources, especially in this information age. I mean, it's just everything is out there at your fingertips. You don't have to watch YouTube for cat videos. Watch YouTube for something productive.
Yeah.
And, and that's what I did. I watched countless videos on whatever the case is, whether it be marketing, development, and then, taking Udemy classes, taking, these classes like Free Code Camp or whatnot. And
Right.
as long as you have a passion and a curiosity, then that's all that you need to propel you forward.
Absolutely. I love that. It really is about being willing to put yourself out there, and you kind of are alluding to something. You said, a little bit early, we have these like baked, ingrained thoughts and ways of operating in the world that they don't need, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You just have to want to learn the trick, and you have to practice it every single day, because those baked in automatic ways of operating in the world will stay there if we do nothing else. The brain is lazy. We know that. It wants to do what it's always done. And so to create a new habit, it does take time. It does take energy. It takes little and consistent attention, right? Every single day, practicing something new, right? And that's exactly what you did when you learned this new technology, right? This platform, building this computer model out. Every single day you put time and effort into it, and you didn't give up. And that, to me, speaks volumes about what resilience is about, and having that growth mindset that I can do this. I don't have to pay someone $50,000 to build this out for me. I can do it myself. And there's also necessity there as well, right? There's a little bit of energy around, I don't have the $50,000 because all of my investor meetings just got canceled. So let's find a different route to get there, right?
Oh, 100%. You just have to take the accountability. You have to put it into your own hands, and you want something done, do it yourself, right? That's what they say. So, and I feel like that's my strength and my weakness. Sometimes it's like, I want to get something done, and I just can't trust anybody but myself to go out there and do it. And that's something that I've learned to suppress a little bit over the years, but it's still a work in progress there.
Working on that, right? Yeah. That's a process for sure. Asking for help is super important. It's part of resilience, right? It's part of, and then, there's that trust issue. We have to make sure that the people that we're asking for help with are right people that have the same passion for us, that have the same values and are on the same, wavelength as us. You don't want to just ask a random person that you kind of like, that is just going to fail you in the end, because that'll just reinforce that I have to do it myself kind of mentality. So I think it's a give and take for sure in that respect. Let me ask you this. Has there ever been anything that you dealt with in your life that you felt like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this? Or what's been, the most challenging thing that you've ever had to deal with that you felt like was this is going to be a tough one, and how did you manage it?
That's a good question. Obviously everything that's happened over the last 2 years have, probably would be up there on that list. Because I had to teach myself a lot of different things in order to try to make this dream a reality. So if I had to pick anything, it probably would be it would probably be this because, I mean, I guess, obviously there was challenges growing up and, trying to do things, but yeah, I was always pretty good and, pretty good student, pretty good, just picking things up very, very quickly, whether it be, a new computer program or, whatnot. But it was this stuff that really, I had to dedicate a lot more time and energy and mind power to. And it was just a matter of just not giving up and just trying to, utilize every single resource that was at my disposal, with the internet being, you know, this vast network of just information.
Yeah.
And just just plugging away day in and day out.
Yeah. I love it. It's just understanding that what we have to do doesn't have to be a 180-degree flip. It's day in and day out, that grind that can keep you motivated, right? It gives your brain opportunity to kind of learn and just keep moving, right? Instead of
Yep.
staying stagnant and having like a burst every 2 weeks of energy and then kind of falling back again. That's not the
Hmm.
most ideal way to kind of operate, because you lose momentum that way and you lose out on learning opportunities as well. I want
Absolutely.
to yeah, for sure. I want to pivot a little bit. Obviously, as playing the field and the fan experience, I know you watched the Super Bowl yesterday, right?
I did.
Yeah. Were you rooting for any team, one or the other?
I well, for the first time in my life, I was not adamantly rooting against Tom Brady,
Okay.
because I am a Jets fan. So there
Yeah.
was a lot of times where it's the Tom Brady's opponent or bust.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily upset with whatever the outcome would be, but I was, my rooting tendencies were towards the Chiefs before the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. I hear you. I didn't have a predisposition either way going in, but that, I started to kind of think about it a little bit, and I thought, this man, Tom Brady, who I'm a Giants fan, so I didn't really pay attention to the New England Patriots growing up. Just knew that he, 20 years there was amazing, and especially in the last 10 years. Um,
Hmm.
but for someone to be in the position he was in, leaving a losing season with New England, coming into a team that hadn't, won a Super Bowl since 2002, he's now brought this group of men together to come in as an outsider, with a huge label across your chest, right?
Hmm.
A lot of labels. He's too old, he's a patriot, he's not anything else, he should retire, whatever it is. To bring this team to the Super Bowl, to me, speaks about mindset in a way that I think is kind of the penultimate way. And he also demonstrated that, I think, throughout the game in a number of different ways. The last minute and a half, he's in that huddle and he's screaming at the players in the huddle, and I'm thinking to myself, well, you got the game in the bag, like, what are you worried about? And then I thought to myself, you know what, he's not stopping until that whistle blows, right? You don't give up, you keep hustling 150%, and then you stop. That you've
Hmm.
done this, all you've prepared all year, you've gotten ready all year. So to me, I just feel like that is kind of, he's so tenacious and he does not give up. And so I'm just curious, rooting and loyalties aside, when you think of someone like him, what are your thoughts?
I mean, there's no denying that he works hard at what he at his craft. I mean, he had to fight every inch of the way, through high school, through college, even came into the NFL as a sixth-round pick and had to show, prove his worth. And he's done that. But yeah, it's just a matter of working hard every day, even with this new team, and in a very trying year, because there was no training camps, there was very limited contact with team participation and stuff like that, because a lot of their team meetings were virtual because of COVID and everything. So to do what he did and to make it to the Super Bowl and to win yet another Super Bowl with a brand new team in his first year, it's, you can't deny what he has done, and the hard work that he puts in and day out. And that's what it's all about. It's just, you just have to work at it, and you never take it for granted. You never try to get better. You just never stay stagnant, and you then you could only go up from there.
Yeah, and I think that he demonstrated that so well, and I am saying that because I feel like, you're talking today about your mentality and kind of how you operate, that you've always been someone who's been curious, who's been a hard worker, who's been, diving into things and not willing to give up, and you pivot when you need to, and you change when you need to, and to that end, you have a very successful podcast now called The Fan Experience, with which I will be visiting next, well, in
I
a
think
couple of months, right?
yeah,
April.
I think April, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's a little ways away. It's a very popular podcast. Obviously, you're doing great with it. And what's that experience been like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, it's an interesting one, to say the least, because it was, I see all these. Well, it really all started, obviously joining Game Plan U and having these different events, and jumping on Rob's podcast right at the beginning of it all. I guest starred on a couple of podcasts, just to get the name of Playing the Field out there. But if you talk to me in November of 2019, right, and said that you're going to guest on a bunch of podcasts, and you're going to host your own podcast, and be 3 months, 4 months into your own hosted podcast in a year from now, I would have called you absolutely crazy. Because before all of it, before everything got really rolling with Playing the Field, like I was an introvert to the fullest. I wasn't. I didn't really do the networking thing. It was really like, the close group of friends or whatever. Never really put myself out there too much. And then just seeing and participating in some of the Game Plan U events, and networking with the other founders, and just getting a lot more comfortable just talking about myself, talking about the business, and just seeing what and everyone else coming up with podcasts throughout the pandemic, because that was the only way to talk to people.
Right. Right.
It was the only way to talk to people.
Right.
And so I was like, all right, I want to start one. And I thought of this in May, and I just kept, putting it off. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be the host. I'm like, oh, should I do it just audio and then like a lot of editing, and luckily, I had a friend, that we were just talking. He wanted to start a podcast. I wanted to start a podcast. So we ended up collaborating, and he was joining me on the Fan Experience, because I had the name, I had the artwork ready. It was just a matter of like, let me get it done. Had the banners ready. So everything was pretty much set up. It was just a matter of me putting my mind, that mindset that, okay, I'm going to do it, succeed or fail, good or bad, let's just do it. And we did. And, we just have a guest on every single episode, and we get to talk to them about their love of sports, and how, sports has really, played an impact on their lives, whether it be personally, professionally, romantically, whatever the case is. We just get to that origin story of like where their love for sports came from, and where they are today because of it.
Yeah, I love it. It's awesome. And you're talking about so many different important things about connecting, finding ways to connect, being uncomfortable, or being comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Like learning how to say, okay, this is a little bit scary, but I'm going to do it anyway, because what are the alternatives to stay stuck in this like cave that I'm in, or in this space that's not going to push me forward at all or help me to grow? And it was a bit trepidatious of a process for you, but you you got there and you did it and you thought about it and you were curious about it and you found a way to do it, which is just, I think, amazing. And just, again, speaks to your spirit and who you are as a person. So I thank you so much for all of this. I think it's just great advice. I think anyone who's watching today, so many nuggets of information, inspiration around having a growth mindset, learning as you go. If you fall down, get back up, teach yourself new skills, and just keep going no matter what. Just keep going. So any final words? I know I'm going to put up your information, how people can get in touch with you through LinkedIn and your social media. Any final words of advice for our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, like the late great Kobe Bryant, he always says, get 1% better every day, Mamba mentality. And, that should be true for everybody that's out there. Even with me starting the podcast, I went forward with it, and tried to plan out as much as I could. And, I look back on the first episode a couple of times, and, I get nauseous watching it. Not because our guest was amazing and phenomenal, but looking at the graphics behind it, looking at the way I was speaking during it, and just not being happy with, how it was going, and then watching 20 episodes down, and seeing the progress. So sometimes you want to take a look back and remind yourself where you were 3 months ago. If you think you're not making any progress, you're wrong. And just recently we just brought on a few interns, to help us out at playing the field. Tremendous interns. So shout out to them, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the industry. And thank you very much for your help. But they they're curious, and they bought into the playing the field mentality. And like I said, it's hard to trust people, but they make it easy to trust them and let them run with their ideas and stuff like that. But it's just a matter of the curiosity, the wanting to learn, the wanting to be better, and not think that you know everything, because you don't. Mm-hmm. And I saw something the other day. If you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Yeah. So and that's the truth. You're never gonna know everything. And right. if you think you do, then you have to check your mindset.
Yeah, for sure.
So watch a couple more of these episodes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my advice to you.
I like that advice. I'm gonna go with that. We'll land right there. Watch more of these episodes. Yeah.
Repurpose that for all of social media.
Exactly. Just that 1-2 second snippet. Click the subscribe button below, everybody.
There you go. See?
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with me, you can reach me through gameplanu.org. You can email me. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I don't know if I have my LinkedIn up here. Do I? Maybe not. But I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me, Denise, Zack. Not hard to find. And I'm very much connected with Game Plan U and all that Game Plan U does. So I want to thank you all for being here today, for watching. Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Really appreciate it. Such great insight. You're a great guy. And we're just really happy again to have you as part of the Game Plan U community. And I'm looking forward to things to come for you. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for having me, Denise. It was an absolute pleasure to be on.
You're welcome. Take care now.
Thank you.